Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to East Texas Today on KTK Plus. I'm your host, Tristan Van Beem. Thank you all so much for joining me on another edition of our morning show over here at KTK. I really appreciate everyone who comes in every morning and tunes in and watches the show. Just can't thank you guys enough for your support. And for our new viewers, thank you for joining us. And I hope that you have a great first show this morning. Let's go ahead and jump right into the first story. Now, this was a huge developing story that happened yesterday. We thought that a lot more was happening than what ended up happening, but I'm going to go ahead and review what went down yesterday morning. And if you weren't here, I actually went live at around 10:50, I would guess, and then kind of ended around 12 to cover this next story. So big deal over here in the East Texas area, as a suspect has died and one sheriff's deputy is injured following a standoff in Cherokee County that occurred on Monday morning. The Cherokee County Sheriff's Office identified the suspect as 53-year-old Sean Turner Sr. of Bullard, who was firing a gun from the front porch of his home. When deputies responded, Turner allegedly opened fire immediately, wounding one deputy with shrapnel. Deputies returned fire but did not strike Turner. The Sheriff's Office confirmed at around 11:10 a.m. and authorities entered the home and found Turner dead from what officials determined to be a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The injured deputy was treated at the scene by EMS and is expected to make a full recovery. The second deputy experienced a medical issue during the incident and was assessed by medical personnel. That deputy is also anticipated to return to duty within the week. Nearby law enforcement activity caused all Bullard ISD campuses to go into a brief secure status that was lifted at around 11:20 a.m. KTK's Ella Mitchell will explain the timeline of this incident.
It happened at a house on FM 2493 between Bullard and Mixon, east of Highway 69.
A little scary. Then, of course, I heard sirens and things.
Cherokee County Sheriff Brent Dixon says the incident started when a neighbor reported a man was firing shots from his porch. As deputies responded, they were met with gunfire, leading to a shooting and standoff. One deputy was injured by shrapnel. The incident forced Bullard ISD to go into secure status.
First, I got the text from the school alerting all the parents that there is a shooter in the area and they secure lockdown the school.
Instantly putting this mother of three and others on guard.
As a mom, I was like, wait, what's going on? But I knew the kids were safe. I mean, just kind of kept an eye on it, going back and forth to Facebook while I was working.
The school remained secure for an hour. Negotiators attempted to speak with the man, but had no response. And that's when they broke into the house and found 53-year-old Sean Turner Sr. dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The sheriff says the injured deputy was treated by EMS at the scene and is expected to make a quick recovery. A second deputy was also treated after suffering a medical issue at the scene.
We live in East Texas, and every other person has a gun or a license or concealed carry or some form of, gun. It doesn't shock or surprise me anymore.
Struhal reminding people to stay alert. Ella Mitchell, KTK News.
Well, thank you so much, Ella, for your coverage on that story. I know things got a little crazy yesterday morning as we were covering it over here on KTK Plus, and you were out in the field as well. And as of right now, there isn't any information out there about why the suspect did this, but if that information does come to light, I'm sure that we'll be able to update you all on that. And if any other information develops throughout this story, I'm sure that we'll be able to get that to you as quick as possible. Let's go ahead and move on to our second story of the morning. The criminal case against Rains County Judge Linda Wallace has been dismissed, according to newly released documents from the Rains County District Clerk's Office. Let's go ahead and play that clip for you all right now to bring up the rest of this story. The dismissal comes after months. The dismissal comes after months of developments connected to the investigation and prosecution of Rains County Justice of the Peace Jenkins Franklin. A full timeline of the events is below, and I'm going to go ahead and read off what that is. On May 1st, Rains County Justice of the Peace Robert Jenkins Franklin was arrested and charged with official oppression and witness tampering. According to a federal lawsuit filed in the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Texas, Rains County Justice of the Peace Jenkins Franklin allegedly threatened a defendant to plead guilty in a case over which Franklin had no jurisdiction. Franklin was accused of threatening the defendant, saying, quote, "I heard you have a problem with me, boy. You take that deal, boy, or you're dead man, or dead men can't testify," end quote. The lawsuit claims this threat is part of a wider pattern of misconduct by Franklin that county officials failed to stop, forming the basis of a Monell claim allowing the defendant to sue local government for constitutional violations. Then later on July 2nd, Rains County Judge Linda Wallace was indicted in connection to Franklin's case with allegations saying Wallace pressured a prospective witness, which is also an employee she supervised, with the intent to influence the witness to withhold testimony. Then later on November 21st, charges against Franklin were dismissed in his case by Van Zandt District Attorney Tonda Curry. Franklin's indictment will be dropped once he completes a year of deferred adjudication. Curry, who is assigned to both cases, said Wallace had rejected a plea deal and that her trial was scheduled for December 8th. And then on December 5th, Wallace's case was dropped and her charges were dismissed by Curry. Rains County court documents released on Sunday afternoon stated, quote, "Having come on for consideration the motion of the state to dismiss this cause of action, the court hereby grants said motion and the cause is hereby dismissed," end quote. Officials contacted by KETK said they had no information about the reason for the dismissal or whether additional action is expected, but that Wallace will remain resigned from her judge position following her indictment. And then moving on to our next story, the Tyler Police Department responded to the scene of a major crash that happened on E 5th Street near Loop 323 on Sunday night. According to Tyler PD, the crash happened in the 2600 block of East 5th Street near the intersection of SSE Loop 323. Officials said that eastbound traffic was closed on East 5th Street from west of SSE Loop 323. The Tyler Police Department said that a 19-year-old cyclist is in serious condition after a vehicle crashed into them in the 2600 block of East 5th Street on Sunday. Tyler PD confirmed that the suspect vehicle fled the scene following the crash. Wow, now as you can see, the bike looks pretty banged up there and the person is in critical condition. If any further developments on their well-being develop, I'm sure that we'll be able to cover that as well. And then our next story actually involves local school districts. The Alba Golden ISD announced a non-private locker rooms during certain times to align with the Senate's new bathroom bill that went into effect on December 4th. Let's go ahead and bring up this picture here real quick. And to meet these new regulations, the school district said locker rooms will be designated, quote, non-private during specific times. 15 minutes before the start of pregame activities, 8 minutes during halftime, 10 minutes after the conclusion of the game, and 20 minutes after the conclusion of a practice. The school districts stated that this will enable coaches to manage the responsibilities with teams such as during pregame, halftime, and postgame meetings, while respecting students' privacy. Now, you may be wondering what Senate Bill 8 is. I'm going to go ahead and break that down for you right now. It is commonly referred to as the Texas Women's Privacy Act, or the, quote, bathroom bill. Senate 8 seeks to limit transgender individuals' access to specific restrooms in the state. The legislation requires that multi-occupancy restrooms, locker rooms, showers, and changing rooms in government offices, K-12 schools, public universities, and state agencies be designated by a person's biological sex assigned at birth rather than their gender identity. Now, what are the exemptions for Senate Bill 8? I'm going to go ahead and explain those as well. The law allows for certain exemptions regarding restroom access for individuals whose gender identity does not match the sex assigned to them at birth. These exemptions include medical personnel providing assistance and staff members cleaning or maintaining the facilities, also law enforcement officials, individuals accompanying someone who requires assistance, children aged 9 or younger who are with an adult, and penalties for not following Senate Bill 8. Individuals are expected not to be penalized. Instead, the institution that owns the facility where the violation occurred can be fined and sued. An institution will have 3 days to correct the violation, which can be resolved by modifying policies or signage before an investigation begins. If any institution continues to violate the law, it will be fined $25,000 for the first instance and $125,000 for each subsequent violation per day. Now, obviously, that is a pretty new story considering that this bathroom bill was passed on December 4th. That is just last week. So we will see if anyone is breaking these rules and see if officials will follow up with those rules and fines that have been placed in order to mandate. So I'm sure we're going to be hearing a lot of stories about this, as this is kind of a big story coming into just Texas and East Texas in general as well. And then moving on, we got some story in politics. The Trump administration announced that $12 billion in farm assistance is going to be delivered. Washington correspondent Kristen Escrow has more on this aid package. I'm going to go ahead and bring that up for you right now.
The Trump administration says the aid would be distributed as direct payments to farmers by the end of February. President Trump touted his tariffs during the announcement, saying that the money being raised from those tariffs is being used to cover the cost of this assistance.
We love our farmers.
Joined by farmers at the White House, President Trump announced a $12 billion farm aid package.
I think you brought Christmas to farmers. With this bridge payment, we'll be able to farm another year, help us get by.
Iowa farmer Court Holub says he's thankful for the president's support.
Maximizing domestic farm production is a big part of how we will make America affordable again and bring down grocery prices for American families.
The aid package includes $11 billion for the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Farmer Bridge Assistance Program. It sends farmers one-time payments for row crops. The remaining $1 billion will go to farmers who grow crops not covered by the Bridge Assistance Program.
These direct payments will give producers the breathing room they need to market this year's harvest and plan for next season.
The Trump administration says the money is coming from tariff revenue. Some farmers say the tariffs, particularly those on China, contributed to lower crop prices and higher operational costs.
Now Donald Trump's patting himself on the back, acting like a hero to farmers, while using taxpayer dollars to clean up the mess he created.
Democrats maintain President Trump's tariffs are only hurting, not helping farmers.
So if I were a farmer, I wouldn't count on this money.
Earlier this fall, President Trump announced China agreed to purchase large quantities of American soybeans after a pause earlier this year. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says China is on track to meet its purchasing goal by the end of February. In Washington, I'm Kristen Escrow.
Well, thank you so much, Kristen, for your coverage on that story. I know that farmers have been struggling, not just in East Texas, but also across America in recent times as prices continue to fluctuate. And I'm sure there'll be more developments on that, as $12 billion is a lot of money, y'all. But enough on that. Let's go ahead and send it into our first break of the morning. I hope you guys are having a great morning so far. Brought you some pretty good stories, but make sure to stick around as I have plenty more coming back after the break. Stay with me. Welcome back from the break. Thank you all for joining East Texas today on KETK+. Let's go ahead and jump into our first story of the new block. The former bishop of the Catholic Diocese of Tyler, Joseph E. Strickland, is set to appear Tuesday at a Grassroots America We the People meeting, which is a prominent constitutional conservative organization based in East Texas. Let's go ahead and bring up a picture of him. The event, titled Closing Out 2025 with Conviction, Hope, and Perseverance, will be held at the Holiday Inn in Tyler. A food and fellowship buffet is scheduled from 5 p.m. to 6:25 p.m., with the meeting set to run from 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Organizers say book signings and additional speakers may continue until 9 p.m. as well. Strickland's appearance marks one of his most public returns to the East Texas community since his removal as head of the Diocese of Tyler on November 11, 2023. An apostolic visitation took place in June of 2023, ordered by Pope Francis, which led church investigators to recommend that Strickland's continuation in office was, quote, was not feasible. When he declined to resign, the Pope removed him and appointed Austin Bishop Joe Vasquez as apostolic administrator. Grassroots America, We the People, which describes itself as the largest all-volunteer constitutional conservation citizen organization in Texas, networks with more than 350 America First groups nationwide. The group's mission centers on uniting and educating citizens to advance what it calls, quote, the cause of liberty, emphasizing Judeo-Christian values, limited government, and traditional family structures. All right, everyone, let's go ahead and jump into our next story of the morning. Pets for People announced on Saturday that their executive director is moving on from her role as the head of East Texas's oldest no-kill animal shelter. Holly Jones first became the shelter's executive director after their former executive director, Gail Helms, retired after 26 years of service last December. Like Helms, Jones was a frequent guest on KTK for the Pet of the Week segment before moving forward from the shelter. Now, you guys have probably seen her on East Texas Living, formerly known as East Texas Live, plenty of times. Pets for People said, quote, we want to wish Holly Jones the very best as she moves forward into the next chapter of her career. We are grateful for her contributions over the past year and appreciate the dedication she brought to Pets for People. We sincerely wish her success in all her future endeavors, end quote. The shelter reaffirmed their commitment to caring for animals and thanked all their supporters, volunteers, donors, and staff who've helped them give second chances to so many dogs and cats over the years. Pets for People said, quote, as we move ahead, Pets for People remains deeply committed to the mission that has guided us for decades. As the oldest brick-and-mortar no-kill shelter in East Texas, our promise continues to provide compassionate care, safety, and second chances to the dogs and cats within our communities. Thank you to our supporters, volunteers, staff, and adopters who help us uphold this mission every single day. Together, we will continue making a difference one animal at a time, end quote. And to learn more or to help fund their mission, visit Pets for People online. Once again, that's Pets, F-U-R, People online. All right, well, over here at KTK, we wish Holly the best on her endeavors as she moves on from Pets for People as well. Thank you so much, Holly, for your dedication to the East Texas community. It has been much appreciative, and I've always enjoyed you bringing in those animals and those dogs to get adopted on the show. And even though I haven't adopted one yet myself, it is always something that I look forward to have those animals here in the studio. Let's go ahead and move on to our next story. East Texans gathered in Gladewater on Sunday in order to celebrate Celtic culture at the Yule Viking Festival. The third annual festival is bringing fans of Viking and Celtic cultures together to enjoy live Celtic music, archery, equestrian entertainment, crafts, food, and much more. Those who missed the festival this weekend are invited to attend the festival next weekend or on December 20th and December 21st. And to learn more or to buy tickets, you can visit the Yule Viking Festival online. Wow, that sounds absolutely amazing. I personally never really got much into Viking culture, but I know it's something that a lot of people are into nowadays, so I might have to check that out myself, and that festival does seem like it could be a lot of fun. And let's go ahead and move on. Counting Stars Ranch held a free concert for veterans at Teague Park in Longview on Saturday. The Patriots at the Park event was held to give back to veterans and to help promote the ranch's new service dog program. Counting Stars Ranch was started in Ore City in 2021 by David and Dr. Vicki Smithers to help veterans and first responders with PTSD. David passed away in 2024, but the ranch is continuing on with his dreams of raising service dogs for veterans. That is just so sweet. Counting Stars Ranch Director Vicki Smithers said, quote, "We've kept the nonprofit going in his memory. We were disabled veterans and his dream was to raise service dogs. We started our service dog training program in January of this year in his honor," end quote. U.S. Army veteran Jen Ford and the Wide-Eyed Devils performed music at Saturday's concert, which Smithers said was a great event that she plans to host every year. The ranch is currently raising money for new dog kennels, and to donate or learn more about their nonprofit, visit Counting Stars Ranch online. Also, if you want to check out that article that we've done on this story, you can scan that QR code on your screen, and that will take you right to our website, KETK.com, where you can also see the articles on our homepage for all these stories that I'm covering on East Texas Today this morning. All right, everyone, well, it is time to send it in to another break for our morning show. But when we come back, I have plenty more of great stories for you all going into our morning, as we are about halfway through the show at this point. But stick around so that way you can get the latest stories in the East Texas area. Stay with me. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome back to East Texas Today on KTK Plus. I'm your host, Tristan Van Beem, and thank you all so much for joining me on this edition of our morning show. We've had some great stories over the past 30 minutes now, so we have plenty more going into the next 30 minutes of our show. And I want to start it off with a story that I actually did last week, and this is a pretty interesting one to me, honestly, because it's something we don't really think about too much, but it has to do with the environment and just with our landscapes and our forest as well. So let's go ahead and jump right into this one. Thanks to the Texas Resilient Landscapes Initiative, Texas landowners can now earn up to $80,000 by reforesting their land. Landowners with 10 to 150 acres of land are being invited by the initiative to reforest their land through a number of different methods. I actually sat down with Texas A&M Forest Service Program Coordinator Aaron Davis last week to learn more about these methods and how landowners can apply them for this program. Let's go ahead and play this full interview and get right into it. Hello, everyone. Thank you for watching KTK Plus. I'm your host, Tristan Van Beem, and today we will be discussing the Texas Resilient Landscapes Initiative that is offering $3.2 million in reforestation funding across the state. Joining me today is Aaron Davis, who is the program coordinator for Texas Resilient Landscapes. Aaron, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today, Tristan?
I'm doing very well myself. Thank you so much for asking, and thank you so much for coming on and agreeing to do this interview. I'm sure that a lot of people would love to just kind of learn more about reforestation and how it helps our Texas landscape.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the opportunity.
Of course. And so to start us off, can you explain what the Texas Resilient Landscape Initiative is and what that means for the work that you guys do?
Yeah, so this is a grant that is a cost share program for landowners in Texas to apply for, to assist them with replanting their property with trees if they lost any due to natural disasters or weather extremes within the last 10 years. So this could be post-fire, after flooding damage, after disease and insect damage, drought, storm events like tornadoes and hurricanes. So it includes all those natural disasters within the last 10 years.
Okay, and then have we seen a lot, like any certain areas really affected by these natural disasters that you guys have been able to go in and kind of help get back to normal?
So, I mean, yeah, that's the goal of this program. We're hoping to do more and have an opportunity for landowners to do more of that work on their property. We have seen disasters statewide over the last 10 years, a lot of drought in some areas, fire damage in others, hurricanes on the coast. And so there's really an opportunity statewide here for landowners to restore their property with this program.
Okay, and then speaking of those restoring efforts, what reforestation practices are funded specifically through the initiative? Do you guys plant more trees? Do you kind of help bring some new soil in there to help it out? What does that look like?
So it's a reimbursement program, and there's a total of 6 practices. 3 of those are planting practices, and one of those has to be included as part of the project. And so those different practices for planting are planting bare root or containerized seedlings, planting in the riparian areas, so along your creeks and rivers to create a band of trees to help filtrate the water. And that's with live cutting. So you can actually take some riparian tree species, cut them from the branches and propagate them in those areas. And then also just through direct seeding. So with like acorns and seeds from trees, planting that way. We also have 2 site prep practices. So if they're needing to do some site prep on the property before those planting practices, they can do shredding and mulching just to get rid of some of the competitive vegetation on the property, or they can do a prescribed burn if they have some vegetation types that would lend itself to a prescribed burn. And then after the planting, we have another optional practice, which is to help the establishment of the trees. So we're calling that temporary browse protection. And that just means protecting the tree from animals that may try to munch on them, eat them while they're fresh and young. So putting tree cages or tree shelters around those trees. So yeah, those are the practices. And like I said, just one of the plantings is required to apply.
All right, and then you mentioned that there are damages that have been caused to certain areas on these landscapes that need reforestation. So how do you guys determine which landscapes actually qualify for the reforestation services that you guys provide?
Yeah, and just to clarify, this is the landowner, contracting or doing the reforestation themselves, and then us reimbursing them. But the way we go about determining eligibility is we're bringing in spatial data and past weather data, storm data, and then we're also doing some ground assessments to determine tree loss from those natural disasters. We're also looking at we're going to give priority to areas where there is a current lack of funding for reforestation projects. So that's going to be more central in West Texas, having that priority. And then also looking at disaster declared counties as part of that eligibility as well.
And then how much funding can these woodland owners receive if they do qualify?
Yes, so the practices have to be on 10 to 150 acres per application cycle. So keep that in mind, and they can be awarded up to $80,000 per year.
Ooh, that's a lot of money right there. I'm sure that a lot can get done with that amount of money.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, and then are there any specific examples that you could give me of some of the reforestation efforts that you guys have done?
So we work a lot. We give a lot of technical guidance. Our foresters in the field and our woodland ecologists, they're out there working with private landowners, giving them advice on how to do that restoration work, do those plantings, both in rural areas and in urban areas. And so since we are a privately owned state, a lot of our work is working with those private landowners, giving them the tools and resources so that they can do those practices and apply that to their land.
Okay, and then for the viewers at home who want to learn more about Texas Resilient Landscapes, where can they go to find out more information?
Yeah, so go to the Texas Resilient Landscapes Initiative website that is on our Texas A&M Forest Service website. And then if they have any more site-specific questions for their application, they're welcome to email us at trl@tfs.tamu.edu.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Erin.
A lot of letters.
All the letters are in there. Well, thank you so much, Erin, for joining me on this interview today. I really appreciate your time, and thank you so much for all the information that you've been able to give us.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to share the work that we do.
Of course. Once again, thank you, Erin, for doing that interview with me. I really appreciate it because I don't feel like often these kind of stories get much light, you know. Now, $80,000 isn't as huge as some of the stories that we've covered in recent times with all of these efforts to, either restore the land or restore other efforts, but it is still a big chunk of change right there. So, and I feel like these stories don't really get enough coverage. Our environment is so important to our well-being. So it is great to see that Texas and East Texas as well is doing whatever they can to take care of that land as well. And it is time for another break. But when we come back, we're going to hear another interesting story about how one East Texas city is being ordered to remove horseshoe decorations from their streets. But more on that when we come back from the break. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome back to East Texas Today on KETK Plus. I'm your host, Tristan Van Beem. Thank you all so much for joining me on another edition of our show in the mornings right here on KETK Plus. And if you feel like it, if you love the show, feel free to share the KETK Plus app with a family member, maybe get them to download it. If you guys really love watching this morning show in the mornings, I'm sure that your family would as well, maybe your friends too. So it's just as easy as having a Fire Stick, Apple TV, Roku, and downloading it on there. It's completely free. So if you are interested in having more of your family or friends watch KETK Plus and all the other programs and cool shows that we have on there throughout the day as well, be sure to let them know. And as I mentioned before the break, the Texas Department of Transportation has notified the city of Overton that the horseshoes on Warren Street near Overton ISD must be removed as soon as possible. I'm going to go ahead and bring up a picture of these horseshoes. All right, so here is a picture of the horseshoes that are on that street. And following an October 8th announcement by Texas Governor Greg Abbott, TxDOT has begun removing non-standard surface markings from Texas roadways. Abbott said in October, quote, "Today I directed the Texas Department of Transportation to ensure Texas counties and cities remove any and all political ideologies from our streets to keep Texans moving safely and free from distraction. We must maintain a safe and consistent transportation network across Texas. Any city that refuses to comply with federal road standards will face consequences, including the withholding or denial of state and federal road funding and suspension of agreements with TxDOT," end quote. Cities like Houston and San Antonio have already been told to remove their rainbow pattern crosswalks, and now TxDOT's Tyler District has contacted the city of Overton about the horseshoes on Warren Street. Vernon M. Webb with Tyler District wrote in an email to the city, quote, "The primary concern is that motorists are focused on the non-standard pavement marking designs rather than the public that is crossing/utilizing the roadway. The Tyler District has one of the highest fatality rates in the state, and both bicycle and pedestrian fatalities continue to be a major concern. Any existing non-conforming pavement markings must be removed and remedied as quickly as possible," end quote. Webb said that TxDOT Executive Director Mark Williams sent a letter to the cities and counties of the Tyler District on October 8th regarding the need to remove any non-standard surface markings. On Monday, a post on the City of Overton's Facebook claimed they never received that letter. The city's post said the horseshoes, which represent Overton ISD's mascot, which is the Mustangs, have been on Warren Street since the early 1990s. The city is asking residents to contact TxDOT to voice their concerns about the removal of the horseshoes. There's currently no date set for when the horseshoes will be removed, according to Webb's email. Now, that is just an interesting story as well. As mentioned earlier, it seems that there is a high volume of fatalities and injuries regarding crosswalks and roadways. And actually, earlier in the show, we talked about a 19-year-old bicyclist who was injured in a crash over in, I believe it was Tyler. Don't quote me on that. I know it was one of our East Texas cities, but I can't exactly remember which city it was in. So I guess that does have some coordination between those two stories. and this is maybe a problem that TxDOT is seeing. So I'm sure we'll be covering that as well if Overton, for whatever Overton ISD decides to do with those horseshoes outside of the premises. Let's go ahead and move on to another story. Smith County Republican Chairman David Stein announced on Monday that he will seek re-election for a 4th term. Stein noted that Mike Thomas of Barrett and Thomas PC will remain his treasurer, a role Thomas has held for him since 2020. Let's go ahead and bring up a clip for you all. Let me see if I can get the right one this time. There we go. All right, in the last 5 years, the Smith County Republican Party has added more precinct chairs and elected officials in the local, state, and federal levels. Stein said, quote, "I'm proud of and grateful to the leadership and members of our party who have supported our efforts to promote the values and platform of the Republican Party. I'm pleased to announce I am endorsed by State Senator Brian Hughes, State Representative Daniel Elders, and Cole Hefner, former State Representative Mike Schaefer, and former County Chairman Marcia Daughtry." Outside of his work as chairman, Stein also serves as president of the Texas Republican County Chairmen's Association, also known as the TRCCA, chairs board of the East Texas Symphony Orchestra, and is active in several civic and community organizations. Stein previously served as president of the Republican Club of Smith County in 2009, 2012, 2013, and 2014, and is a member of the Tyler Mayor's Prayer Breakfast Steering Committee. Stein will appear on the ballot in the 2026 Republican primary on March 3rd, 2026. Now, I do want to mention that election is going to be coming up very soon, the March 3rd election. I know we're going to be having a ton of coverage over here at KETK and Fox 51, as well as more candidates either get themselves on the ballot or go for another re-election term. So that's going to be a crazy time over here in the newsroom, and our local election headquarters will be busy. So be sure you be on the lookout for that. You can also scan this QR code on your screen. That takes you directly to our website, KETK.com, where we're going to be having a ton of coverage on our local news in that first quarter of our year in 2026. All right, y'all, it is time to move on to another story. Let me go ahead and bring this image up right here. I know that I did this story yesterday as well, but it seems to the best of our knowledge that this man is still missing. So I'm going to go ahead and read the details for you all right now. The Smith County Sheriff's Office is currently searching for a missing 78-year-old man who was last seen leaving his home on Sunday morning. The Sheriff's Office said that deputies responded to a report of a missing person in the 8600 block of County Road 384 near Tyler at around 7:30 p.m. on Sunday. A family member told deputies that Emiliano Valle left his home on foot, heading in an unknown direction around 6 a.m. on Sunday. Valle is described as 5 feet 1 inch Hispanic man with gray hair who weighs around 250 pounds and is possibly wearing a black suit jacket. Valle has lymphedema and frequent UTIs that cause him to get confused and have issues with his memory. He also has trouble walking and requires bandages on his legs. Anyone who sees Valle or knows where he might be is asked to call the Smith County Sheriff's Office at 903-566-6600 or call 911. I'm going to go ahead and repeat that. That is the Smith County Sheriff's Office phone number at 903-566-6600, or you can call 911 as well. All right, everyone, well, it is time to move into our final break of the morning show. And when we come back, we get to hear about a Mount Enterprise athlete who actually broke a Texas high school football record this past game in the regional rounds of the Texas High School Football State Championship. So if you're interested in sports and interested in that story, maybe you live in the Mount Enterprise area and want to see props given to an athlete in your community, be sure to stick around and check out that story right after we come back from the break. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome back to East Texas Today on KETK Plus. I'm your host, Tristan Van Beem, and I have a couple more stories to round off our morning show for today. I hope you guys are having a great Tuesday so far, and I hope that you've been enjoying the show as far as today. Now, as I mentioned right before we went into our last break, there was actually an East Texas athlete who recently broke the Texas high school football single-season rushing yards record. Let's go ahead and get into that. In Mount Enterprise's regional final win over the Bremond Wildcats, standout running back Keegan Ash broke the Texas high school football single-season rushing yards record. Ash rushed for 501 yards and 6 touchdowns to break Kenneth Hall's record, which stood for 72 years. That is just absolutely insane that this record was broken. Ash, who's committed to play linebacker at Texas Tech, is only 91 yards away from breaking the career rushing yards record, which is also held by Hall himself. KETK sports reporter James Grant has more on this incredible accomplishment.
In Mount Enterprise's regional final win over Bremond, Wildcats standout running back Keegan Ash broke the Texas high school football single-season rushing yards record.
None of it would have been possible without my teammates and the coaches and, of course, the man above. So I'm just super grateful to just be put in the position just to run the ball for my team.
Ash rushed for 501 yards and 6 touchdowns, breaking Kenneth Hall's record, which stood for 72 years. However, he's not focused on the records, but rather helping lead Mount Enterprise to 2 more wins to capture the Wildcats' first ever state title.
It's been really amazing, the ride and the journey. But I try to just stay focused, keep my mind straight, and I just try to stay off social media as much as possible and to just stay in my word and just give all the praise to the man above, of course.
Ash, who's committed to play linebacker at Texas Tech, is 91 yards away from breaking the career rushing yards record, also held by Hall. For now, he and his teammates are blocking out the noise and getting ready to face a tough Shiner team in the state semis.
Just have a really good week of work and just make sure everybody's dialed in. And if we execute practice, then we're going to execute during the game.
Mount Enterprise head football coach Scott Ponder, who's coached Ash since his freshman year, has a front row seat to Ash's heroics every Friday night, and he doesn't take that for granted.
I would say he's probably the best player I've coached. He's tremendous. He's unbelievable. Just with you total up the attitude and the work ethic and what he can do on the field, it's quite incredible.
Ash could have graduated early, but decided to wait until May because of how much he loves the people around him in Mount Enterprise. All he wants to do is win the final 2 games of his high school career and bring home the first ever football state title to a community that's poured so much into he and his teammates.
It would mean more to the community and coaches than it would to me because they put in all this time and effort into us, especially on the weekends. They stay out late and they sacrifice family time for us, so it'd mean a lot to just them.
In Mount Enterprise, James Grant, KETK Sports.
All right, James. Well, thank you so much for your coverage on that story. I have to quickly get into our Travel Tuesday for this evening because you know it's that time of the show and it's that time of the week. I have another edition of our Travel Tuesday for you all, and on this episode, Daniel Armbruster with AAA and I will discuss if premium fuel is really worth the extra cash. Let's go ahead and play that right now. Hello, everyone. Thank you for watching KETK Plus. I'm your host, Tristan Van Beem, and today I have another edition of Travel Tuesday for you all. And for those of you who have been watching the show for a while now, you already know what this is. I bring in my friend Daniel Armbruster from AAA Texas, and we give you a topic to talk about. Daniel, how are you doing today?
Hey, Tristan, I'm doing great. Good to see you.
Great to see you, too. Sorry we missed you last week. Had a little bit of technical difficulties, but it's always good to get right back on track. So I appreciate you coming.
Oh, yeah, always happy to be here.
All right, and then for the topic today we're going to be going over is fuel efficiency and gas prices as well. More on the line with premium fuel. And I just want to start off by saying that gas prices continue to be at the top of mind for drivers. So today we're talking about whether premium fuel is actually worth it. Fuel, is actually worth it. Daniel, AAA just released new research. What did you guys find?
Yeah, so well, this research that AAA has been looking at, it found it looked really closely at the different types of fuels that help drivers get the most value at the pump. The big takeaway from this was if your car is designed to run on regular gas, you really want to stick with regular gas. Our tests show that there's no benefit to putting premium in a vehicle that doesn't require it, which a lot of drivers, or not a lot of drivers, but some drivers think that maybe they'll get a little bit more out of their vehicle if they put premium in. If it's not required, you don't have to do that, Tristan.
I mean, that makes sense. I've always used regular fuel myself, but I do know some people who just hear premium and they go, oh, well, that sounds better, so I'm just going to go ahead and use that. But sometimes that is just not the case, as you just said. Sometimes some cars are just more fuel efficient with the regular fuel instead, and if they don't require it.
Yeah, so in most cases, yes. And so
Mhm.
AAA tested both regular and premium in cars that were built for regular fuel. They found no improvement in horsepower, fuel economy, or emissions. So if your manufacturer, you can look at your owner's manual in your vehicle, and if the manufacturer recommends regular gas, just press that 87 button, save your money. You don't need to get premium unless it says so in your owner's.
Right, all right. And then, Daniel, what about people who have cars that are recommended to have premium fuel but do not require it? Should they go ahead and make that jump to premium?
So, great question. Yeah, and AAA found that in certain extreme driving scenarios, maybe like towing, hauling, rapid acceleration situations, premium might give you a modest boost in performance and fuel economy, but really for everyday driving around town on the highway, there's little benefit.
So, how does someone know which kind of fuel they should use whenever they go to the gas station and they need to fuel?
Your best bet is the owner's manual. If your
Mm.
vehicle requires premium, of course you should use premium. Some high performance engines are built specifically for that higher octane, but if regular is recommended in the owner's manual, then regular is all you need. But again, if your owner's manual does call for premium, then that's when you would want to use premium, Tristan.
There's your key right there, folks. Make sure you check your owner's manual, and at worst case scenario, use Google. That's a very handy tip as well. And also, AAA talks a lot about top tier gasoline. What is that top tier gasoline?
Yeah, so this is actually a trademark. Top tier is it's a fuel standard with better detergents. AAA studies showed that the fuels that meet those standards result in 19 times fewer engine deposits. So that keeps your engine cleaner, running more efficiently. No need to buy premium to get those benefits, but certainly there are some benefits, of course, over the long term.
All right, Daniel. And then before I let you go, what is the bottom line for drivers whenever they are considering which fuel to get?
Yeah, really, Tristan, just don't spend more than you have to. Premium doesn't mean premium results, as you were referring to earlier, that
Mhm.
some people believe. That's unless your car truly needs it, of course. So use the grade recommended in your vehicle owner's manual. Choose top tier when you can, and then you'll save money while protecting your engine as well.
So some great takeaways is look at your owner's manual, do your research, and really just find what fits for you unless your vehicle is required to have that premium fuel. Daniel, thank you so much for joining me on another edition of Travel Tuesday. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.
All right, stay safe, Tristan.
Well, there you have it, everyone. There is the answers for you. If you are considering putting premium fuel in your car, even if it is not needed, it looks like not. So thank you all so much for tuning in and watching East Texas today on KTK Plus. If you want to watch that Travel Tuesday in its entirety again, you can go ahead and check out our YouTube page. Just go to YouTube, search KTK. Go to our playlist section, click KTK Plus Originals, and it'll be one of the most recent videos on there. I'm your host, Tristan Van Beem, and thank you all so much for watching the show this morning. I will see you all next time.